New figures seen exclusively by Good Morning Britain show that almost every paramedic in England has been threatened or abused by a drunk person while on duty.
The statistics from the Institute for Alcohol Studies paint an alarming picture for the safety of ambulance crews who face verbal and physical abuse from the public nearly every day. If we take a look at the figures now, they also show that just over half have received an actual injury from dealing with drunken members of the public, while a further 50% have been subjected to sexual harassment or sexual assault.
And 90% of paramedics say they feel dealing with alcohol-related incidents places an unnecessary burden on their workload. Well, Richard Gaisford has more.
It's a familiar scene, people having fun, winding down with a few drinks. The figures, though, seen by this programme show the real cost of paramedics and the burden that alcohol brings. Ambulance crews are on the front line and say alcohol-related abuse is a serious problem.
I've had a male patient be sexually suggestive to me. I've had verbal abuse, and I've even had a woman in her 70s assault me.
Alcohol-related call-outs are taking up valuable time and resources. People are dying because they can't get the help they need.
I'm regularly sworn at by patients, their friends or relatives. The fear of being assaulted is increased when dealing with intoxicated patients.
The NHS says further action will be taken against those who assault their staff, risking their lives whilst trying to save others.
Need a big step up, big step up.
Well, Richard is at an ambulance station in Gateshead this morning, and it seems like the problem is getting worse for paramedics.
Oh, Kate, I think it is. There's huge pressure on these ambulance crews. I mean, look, this station is empty because all of those emergency ambulances are out at the moment helping other people, and yet when they get onto those calls, these ambulance workers just don't know if they are going to be the victims in all of this. Let's have a chat with Stacey Hilton, a mum of two. You've worked with the ambulance crews for 4 years, a fairly newly qualified paramedic, aren't you?
Yeah, that's correct.
Every day you're going out, and every day you're worrying.
Yeah, I think it's becoming an increasing problem for all of the crews. I think if you spoke to anybody, they'll tell you that it doesn't matter what time of the day, it can be any time, and this is obviously the challenges that we're faced with day in, day out.
And it can be any type of person. It's not just young, rowdy people who've just turned out of a nightclub.
No, not at all. I think, obviously, you know, it could be anybody. I think people are quite, you know, guarded as to think that it is young people, and that's just not the case. It can be anybody. Obviously there's, you know, you get your people who've got alcohol issues during the day, but then on a night time you could have people that have been out drinking during the night and the early hours of the morning, and then basically they can't get home.
And it's happening to you more, is it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've worked for the service for 4 years, and I would say in the last 4 years we've definitely seen an increase in alcohol related incidents.
And Stacey, why do you think that is?
I think basically we've got quite a big student population up in the northeast, which I think does cause a problem. Pubs and clubs like 15 years ago would shut at 2 o'clock in the morning. Now they're open until like 5 o'clock in the morning, encouraging people to continue drinking, and then obviously to the point where they can't get home, or they're just that intoxicated that they can't look after themselves, which obviously puts a pressure on us to look after them and take them to hospital.
Well, it is a huge pressure. We thank you for the work that you do. The NHS says that alcohol is not an excuse for attacking NHS staff. There is no excuse, they say, and they will prosecute.